Smoke and Mirrors. The Ghost Who Framed Me, Part 1. What do you do when a killer shows up with your face, your voice, your walk, and Haven City believes it's you? When every clue, every witness, every fingerprint says you pulled the trigger, even though you were somewhere else, that's the kind of nightmare you don't wake up from. That's the night I learned a man can lose his life long before he stops breathing. All it takes is someone stealing who you are. My name is Vincent Mallory, or at least, it used to mean something. I once worked homicide for the Haven City Police Department. I put monsters in cells and tried to forget the monsters I'd seen. But one night changed everything. A crime scene covered in blood, a dead man with too many enemies, and a shadow wearing my face walking away from the body. I wasn't there, but Haven City didn't care. As the city turned on me, there was only one person I could trust, Veronica Vale, journalist, trouble magnet, and the only one crazy enough to believe that the man who killed under my name wasn't me. The trouble didn't start with the corpse. It started with the phone call that pulled me out of a half-finished bottle of rye on a cold night in January, 1941. I was sitting in my apartment, a cramped place above a pawn shop, where the wallpaper peeled like old bandages, when the phone rang with the kind of tone that promises nothing good. I answered on the third ring. "This is Mallory," a shaky voice replied. "Detective, it's Carter. You better come down to the riverfront. We got a mess." Carter was young, too polite, and always scared he'd say the wrong thing. If his voice was shaking, something bad had happened. But there was something else in his tone, something I couldn't place yet. "What kind of mess?" I asked. A pause. "The kind you don't come back from." He hung up. I didn't like that. Not one bit. But I grabbed my coat, my hat, and the old Harmon 38 I kept tucked behind the radiator. Haven City wasn't a place you walked through unarmed at midnight. The fog rolled in thick that night, swallowing street lamps and distorting shadows. The kind of fog that makes the whole world feel like it's waiting to jump you. As I stepped outside, something gnawed at my gut. A warning, an instinct I'd learned to trust. Something was wrong, and whatever it was, it had my name on it. The riverfront at night looked like a place the world had forgotten. Rusted cranes stood like skeletons. Cargo crates were stacked high, each one hiding more secrets than the last. And the river moved slow, like thick oil, swallowing moonlight whole. Carter was waiting near an alley, his breath fogging the air. He looked pale, eyes darting like a cornered rabbit. "You okay?" I asked. He shook his head. "Detective, we got a dead guy, shot clean in the chest. But that's not the worst part." "What's the worst part?" His hands trembled. "You're not going to believe me." "Try me." He swallowed. "A witness saw the shooter. He said, 'It was you.' That stopped me cold." "Me?" I repeated, trying to process the words. He nodded quickly, avoiding my gaze. "Said he saw you leave the warehouse minutes before we got here." "That's impossible," I said. "I was home, drinking, alone." Carter winced, like he expected me to hit him. I know, but that's what the witness said." I followed him into the warehouse. The air stank of gunpowder and old timber. One lonely bulb flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the floor. On the ground lay the body of a stocky man in a gray suit, eyes wide with surprise. Blood spread beneath him like spilled ink. "Victim ID?" I asked. "Name's Henry Locke, bookkeeper for the O'Shea crime family." My stomach tightened. The O'Sheas were bad news. If they thought I killed their bookkeeper, I'd be dead before the morning paper hit the streets. A uniformed officer stepped aside to reveal something glowing near the victim's hand, a discarded cigarette still burning. Not my brand, but beside it, a silver lighter. A very familiar silver lighter. My lighter, the one I lost last week. I knelt down, slow and careful. The engraving was unmistakable. V.M. Someone wanted this to look like my work. "Detective," Carter whispered. "I'm sorry, but the captain wants you brought in for questioning." I straightened, locking eyes with him. If I let the department get their hands on me, I'm finished. He didn't argue. He didn't have to. I turned and slipped into the shadows before backup arrived. There was only one person who'd hear my side of this Veronica Vale. Veronica Vale. Ronnie lived in a small apartment above the Lantern, a smoky little bar where washed-up dreamers came to drown. When she opened the door, her red hair was tied back, and she wore a robe that looked like it had seen better battles. Her eyes widened at the sight of me. "Vince? It's after midnight. What happened?" "I'm being framed," I said, "for murder." Her face hardened. "Come in." Her apartment smelled like ink, whiskey, and old newspapers. Piles of drafts were stacked against the walls, each one a story itching to be written. "Tell me everything," she said, grabbing a notebook. I paced the small room, trying to stay calm. "Someone killed Henry Locke down at the riverfront," I said. "And they made damn sure the world thinks I did it." "You didn't, right, Ronnie?" Okay, she said, raising a hand. "Just checking." She grew quiet for a moment, thinking hard. "This isn't a sloppy frame job. Whoever did this knows your habits, your brand of lighter, your work style, your beat. That's personal." "Yeah," I muttered. "Too personal." She stepped closer. "Vince, who would want to destroy your life?" I could list a dozen, maybe more, but none of them fit this clean, this perfect, this surgical. "Whoever they are," I said. "They studied me." Ronnie clicked her pen. "Then let's study them back." That's what I liked about her. She didn't scare easy. The city turns against me. By dawn, the newspapers hit the streets. Detective Mallory wanted for riverfront murder. The article painted me as a rogue cop gone bad, a man who snapped and took out a mob bookkeeper. The picture printed beside the story didn't help either. It made me look like I knew where the bodies were buried. Walking the streets became a gamble. Every glance lingered too long. Every whisper cut deeper. And every police car cruising by made my palms itch. Ronnie kept pace beside me, hands in her coat pockets. "This is bad," she said. "Really bad. Tell me something I don't know." She pointed to a poster freshly tacked to a brick wall. "Wanted, Vincent Mallory, armed and dangerous." I frowned. "Dangerous, huh?" She gave a small smirk. "I mean, they're half right." We made our way to Locke's office downtown. The O'Shea family ran their businesses from the shadows, but their bookkeeping was done in a tiny, dusty room above a bakery. The kind of place where deals were made quietly and threats were whispered softer than confession. I didn't want to be there. But if Locke kept records, maybe something inside would point to whoever wanted him dead and why they wanted me blamed for it. Searching Locke's office, the hallway creaked with every step, and the air carried the smell of yeast and fear. The door to Locke's room was unlocked. Wrong. Bookkeepers for crime families usually kept their doors double-bolted. Inside, the space had been torn apart, papers shredded, drawers dumped, ledger books ripped open like someone expected to find diamonds inside. Whoever searched the place wasn't subtle. They wanted something important, and they found it. Ronnie sifted through the mess. Whatever weapon they used, it wasn't gentle. I found a single ledger page still intact, caught between a radiator and the wall. The handwriting was neat, but the names made my stomach twist. Mallory payments owed. Mallory collection due. Mallory accounted. "What the hell?" I whispered. Ronnie read over my shoulder. "Vince, did you take money from the O'Sheas?" "No, never. But Locke's ledger says." "I don't care what it says. It's fake." She nodded. "Then someone wants it to look like you're on the O'Shea payroll." "Yeah," I muttered. "And that someone is willing to kill for it." Just then, footsteps echoed down the hall. Heavy ones, not friendly ones. I motioned for silence. Ronnie ducked behind a file cabinet. I slipped behind the door, gun drawn. The door creaked open. A man stepped inside, big, broad shoulders, wearing a dark coat. But his face, I froze. Because it was mine. My face, my jaw, my scar across the eyebrow. I nearly dropped my gun. He stepped deeper into the room, scanning it like he'd been here before. His voice was my voice, same roughness, same gravel. "He already took the ledger," he muttered. "Too slow." Ronnie's eyes widened. She clamped a hand over her mouth to stop from gasping. I felt my pulse hammering. This wasn't a look-alike. This wasn't a coincidence. This was someone who had studied me down to the smallest detail. Someone who walked like me, breathed like me, spoke like me. I stepped forward, gun raised. "Don't move." He turned, calm as a priest at confession. His eyes met mine, and there was a strange calm in them, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Well," he said, "you finally caught up. Who the hell are you?" I demanded. He smiled my smile. "I'm you." That chilled me more than any bullet. Ronnie slowly stood. "Vince, what's going on?" The man stepped closer. I kept my gun steady. "You took my life," he said. "Now I'm taking it back." Before I could respond, he reached into his coat. I fired, but he vanished into the hallway before the bullet hit. I ran after him, but the corridor was empty. Gone. Ronnie grabbed my arm. "Vince, what was that? Who was he?" I shook my head. "I don't know, but I knew one thing. Whatever he wasn't done with me." The heat tightens. The city felt smaller now. Every shadow watched me. Every echo sounded like footsteps. Every alley whispered my name. We needed answers. And fast. Ronnie and I found a safe place to hide, an abandoned speakeasy beneath a corner store. Dust coated every bottle, and cobwebs filled the corners. But it was quiet, isolated, perfect for disappearing. Ronnie sat across from me at a small table, tapping her pen. "Let's break this down," she said. "Someone with your face and voice killed Locke, then planted evidence to frame you." "Right. He knew where you lived, what lighter you carried, what people would believe about you." "Right. And he said you took his life. What does that mean?" I rubbed my temples. "I don't know. Think, Vince. Who have you crossed in the past who would go this far?" I went through the list in my head: criminals, ex-cops, ghosts from cases long buried. But none of them made sense. No one I know has the resources to pull something like this off. She leaned forward. "Then maybe it's not who you know, but who you don't." That idea stuck with me. Someone had been watching me, learning me, practicing me. Whoever he was, he didn't just want to ruin me. He wanted to replace me. A name surfaces. Later that night, Ronnie searched through her old files, looking for anything that smelled like identity theft before the term existed. Strange sightings, doppelgangers, imposters. One name kept coming up: Elias Mercer. A ghost, a rumor, a man who changed identities like gloves. Mercer was a master mimic, a con artist who could slip into another man's life so well even family couldn't tell the difference. He vanished 5 years ago after a job went wrong. Some said he died. Some said he fled the country. Nobody ever proved anything. But the more Ronnie read, the colder I felt. The description matched what I saw. The style matched the frame job. The motive, unclear. But the method fit like a glove. Ronnie looked up. "If it's him, Vince, we're dealing with someone who doesn't just look like you. He becomes you. He studies everything, every habit, every flaw." My voice went flat. "Why me?" She hesitated. Maybe Mercer needed a new life. A clean one. One with authority. One that people listen to. "You're a detective. You're smart. You're trusted. If he can replace you, he gets all of that. And I get the rope." Ronnie nodded grimly. Police closing in. Around sunrise, we heard the sirens. Lots of them. Nearby, Ronnie peeked through a crack in the boarded window. "They're sweeping the block." I grabbed my coat. "We need to move." We slipped out through the speakeasy's back tunnel, a narrow passage connecting to a drainage alley behind the store. It smelled like damp stone and old sins. Footsteps echoed above. Voices. Flashlights. They were getting close. Ronnie whispered, "Vince, if they catch you." "They won't." But I wasn't sure. We turned a corner and froze. A cop stood at the end of the alley. His hand went to his gun. "Mallory." Hands up. Ronnie's breath caught. My gun was useless against half the department. Then, from behind the cop, a figure stepped into view. It was him, my double. He gave me a small nod, almost mocking, then slipped away into the fog. The cop didn't even glance at him. He didn't see him. He only saw me. "Run!" Ronnie shouted. We bolted left, sprinting down the alley. Bullets cracked past us, punching holes through brick and rusted metal. I pulled Ronnie behind a dumpster as shots rang out. "He was here," she whispered, "right in front of that cop, and he didn't see him." "He saw me," I said. "Because that's the point." Ronnie nodded slowly. "He's not just framing you, Vince. He's replacing you." That was the moment I understood. This wasn't just a frame job. It was a rewrite of my life. Piece by piece, step by step, the city would forget me. The department would hunt me. And he, the ghost wearing my face, would walk free, unless I stopped him first. The gunfire died down, but the ringing in my ears stayed sharp. Ronnie gripped my arm as we crouched behind trash bins, slick with rainwater and grease. My lungs burned with every breath, and the cold alley smelled of rot and wet newspaper. "They're going to search every street," Ronnie whispered. "He wants you cornered." "He?" I said. "Or they?" She frowned. "What are you saying?" "Mercer might be the face," I murmured. "But someone else is pulling strings." Ronnie didn't argue. She knew I was right. Haven City was many things, but subtle wasn't one of them. This frame job, this wasn't just personal. It was organized. We slipped out through the far end of the alley, keeping our heads low. My coat was soaked through, and every step felt heavier. I could almost feel the net tightening around us, patrol cars cruising slow, flashlights sweeping alleys, the whisper of my name on police radios. By the time we reached the industrial district, the streets were empty. Abandoned factories stretched into the fog like forgotten giants. Windows shattered, bricks cracked, rust everywhere. We ducked into an old textile mill Ronnie knew once, a place humming with workers, now a hollow shell filled with echoes. She grabbed my arm. "Vince, look at me." I did. "We need a plan," she said. "Running won't cut it forever." "I know." "Then tell me what you're thinking." I took a slow breath. "We find Mercer. We corner him. We force the truth out of him." "That's not a plan," she said. "That's a suicide note." She wasn't wrong, but I didn't have room for fear anymore. "Ronnie," I saw his eyes. "Whoever he is, he's not just a criminal. He believes he is me." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth hung between us like smoke. We set up in a hidden corner of the mill. Ronnie cracked open her notebook and began flipping through old articles she'd written years ago, stories about identity scams, con men, disappearances. Pages rustled like brittle leaves. "He's too good," she muttered. "Too perfect. The walk, the voice, the presence. A mimic can practice mannerisms. But this is something else." "What are you getting at?" I asked. "I'm saying Mercer doesn't just copy people. He becomes them." She paused, then looked up. "Do you remember the West End disappearances 5 years ago?" "Barely. 3 men vanished. No bodies, no ransom, nothing. But rumors said someone took their lives. Not by killing them, but by living them." I frowned. "Living them?" "Yes," she said, stepping into their routines, their jobs, their relationships. People didn't even know the real men were gone until months later. And who did they blame? Nobody. Because nobody believed the victims weren't who they said they were. Mercer was the prime suspect, but there was no proof, no fingerprints, no witnesses. "And now he's doing it again," I said. To me, Ronnie exhaled slowly. "The question is why you?" Just after dawn, Ronnie found something. She had been flipping through a stack of old police files she'd stolen from her own archives. Suddenly, she froze. "Vince, you need to see this." She handed me a faded photograph. The edges were curled, the ink worn, but the image was clear enough. A group of rookie cops from 12 years ago, fresh faces in clean uniforms. I recognized myself in the middle, younger, lighter, still carrying hope. But near the edge stood another man. I squinted. My stomach dropped. He looked like me, not identical, but close enough to be uncanny. The same angular jaw, same brow line, same posture. like an early sketch of the man who now hunted me. Who is he? Ronnie whispered. I flipped the photo over. A list of names scribbled in pencil. Recruits class of 29. But one name had been crossed out in thick, black ink. Elias Mercer. Ronnie let out a low breath. He was a cop? No, I said. He washed out. 2 weeks into training, he disappeared. She nodded slowly. That's where he learned you. Your habits, your routines, your style. I swallowed. This didn't start weeks ago, Ronnie. It started years ago. If we were going to find Mercer, we needed information. And if we needed information, we needed someone who crawled through the filth of Haven City with his eyes open. A man named Baxter Finn. Finn lived in a basement under a tailor shop in the Backline district. He wasn't a criminal, at least. Not a smart one. But he had ears everywhere. A rat with a Rolodex full of secrets. When Ronnie and I arrived, he was hunched over a lantern, sewing a tear in a cheap suit. His round glasses were cracked, and he smelled like mothballs and desperation. Mallory? He stammered. You're wanted by half the city. Then I guess it's your lucky day, I muttered. I'm still breathing. He nodded nervously. What brings you down here? Need a hideout? A new look? A passport? I need information, I said. About Mercer. That name hit him like a slap. He dropped the needle. It clattered onto the floor. No, he whispered. Not him. Anyone but him. That's the second time I've heard someone say that, I said. Talk. Finn rubbed his thin arms. You don't understand. Mercer's not normal. No kidding. He's a ghost, Finn whispered. Shows up wearing someone else's life. Then he disappears again. Leaves nothing behind except confusion. What does he want with me? I demanded. Finn hesitated, then opened a drawer, producing a thin file. Someone paid me to hold this. Said a man who looks like you would come for it. My pulse jumped. When? I asked. Last week, he said. Describe him. Finn shook his head. He looked like you. I clenched my jaw. Give me the file. He handed it over. The folder was plain and unmarked. Inside, I found a single sheet of paper. A list of names, all crossed out. But at the bottom, mine. Vincent Mallory next. Ronnie leaned over my shoulder, eyes darkening. He planned this. No, I said slowly. Someone planned it for him. Baxter Finn swallowed hard. There's more. People say Mercer started working with someone new, someone powerful, someone who needed a clean cop to take a fall. Who? I asked. Finn shook his head. I don't know, but whatever you're mixed up in, it's bigger than Mercer. I slipped the list into my coat. Thanks, I said. Stay put. Don't talk to anyone. As we left, Finn called after me. Detective Mallory, if the ghost comes back wearing your skin, run. You can't beat a man who's already living your life. We left the tailor shop and ducked into the nearest alley. Ronnie exhaled heavily. This is spiraling. He's been planning this for weeks, maybe months. No, I said. Years. She stopped walking. Vince, you said he was a recruit with you 12 years ago. You think he's been watching you since? I think he's been waiting for the right moment. Ronnie folded her arms. And now he's got you listed as next. That's not a coincidence. I nodded. This is only step one. There's something bigger here. We weren't just dealing with a mimic. We were dealing with a man who wanted to erase me and replace me. If Locke the bookkeeper was dead, the O'Shea crime family would want answers. And if they believed I was the killer, they'd stop at nothing to settle the score. Ronnie and I headed to the Harbor District, where the O'Sheas ran most of their work. The streets were lined with fishmongers, shuttered bars, and the scent of salt water mixed with oil. We reached an old warehouse, guarded by two bruisers with broken noses and worse attitudes. They crossed their arms as we approached. Mallory? One of them grunted. You got a death wish? Line forms behind the police, I said. I need a word with your boss. They looked at each other, then stepped aside. Maybe curiosity outweighed their hatred. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit. Cigarette smoke curled through the air like lazy ghosts. Boxes were stacked against the walls but not labeled, probably not filled with anything legal. At a desk near the back sat Donny O'Shea, the youngest of the O'Shea brothers, but the sharpest. He was thin, wiry, with eyes that never stopped moving. "Mallory," he said without looking up, "you got guts coming here after you killed my bookkeeper." "I didn't kill Locke," I said. He smirked. "Sure, and I'm the Pope." Ronnie stepped forward. "Listen, Donny. Someone's framing him. Someone who wants the police and your family after him." Donny tapped ash into a tray. "Why should I believe you?" "Because whoever killed Locke didn't care about your operation," I said. "He cared about framing me." That made Donny pause. "Go on," he said. "We found Locke's ledger," I continued. "It said I was taking payments from your family." Donny laughed. "You? Taking money from us? You hate our guts." "Exactly," I said. "Someone forged it." Donny leaned back, rubbing his chin. "So you're saying someone's setting you up and dragging us into it?" "That's right," Ronnie added. "Whoever it is, they're smart. They want two forces hunting Vince, you and the police." Donny smirked. "Well, you're not wrong." He reached into a drawer. I tensed, but he pulled out a folder and tossed it onto the desk. "That's Locke's last report," he said. "Found it in his safe. I'm only letting you see it because I can't stand being played." Ronnie grabbed it and flipped through. She froze. "Vince, look at this." I leaned in. The report contained a list of shipments, dates, times, locations, all marked interrupted. At the bottom, interference traced to internal leak subject, identified VM. "Someone's been sabotaging O'Shea shipments," Ronnie said, "and they used your initials to point the blame at you." Donny lit another cigarette. "Whoever's pretending to be you, they're hitting us hard." "How hard?" I asked. Donny's eyes narrowed. "Hard enough that if you weren't standing in front of me right now, I'd have already put a bullet in your skull." "That's comforting," I muttered. Ronnie asked, "Any idea where Locke was planning to meet before he died?" Donny nodded. "Yeah. He had a drop planned at an old distillery. You find who he was meeting, you find the truth." I stood. "Thanks." "Don't thank me," Donny said. "You bring me that ghost wearing your face, dead or alive, and we're square." End quote. Night fell by the time Ronnie and I reached the old distillery at the edge of Haven City. The place looked like a corpse made of brick windows smashed, walls cracked, roof sagging under years of rain and silence. A faint light flickered inside. Ronnie whispered, "Someone's here. Stay behind me." We slipped through a broken door. The floorboards creaked. Dust floated in the air. Barrels lay rotting in the corners, like forgotten secrets. Then we heard footsteps. Slow, calm, purposeful. We followed the sound into a room where an old copper still gleamed faintly. A man stood beside it, tall, wearing a coat like mine. His back was to us. "Mercer," I said. He didn't turn. "You followed Locke here the night he died," I said. "You killed him, and you set me up." Mercer chuckled softly. The sound was too familiar. "You still don't understand," he said. "This isn't about Locke, or you. It's about the truth." "What truth?" Ronnie demanded. He turned slowly. His face, my face, emerged from the shadows. "The truth," he said, "that Vincent Mallory died 12 years ago, and the man standing here now is living on borrowed time." Ronnie gasped. I felt the world tilt. "Don't try to confuse me," I snapped. "You're a mimic, a fraud." He stepped closer. "I'm not your reflection," he said quietly. "I'm your replacement. But you were never supposed to be the original." His eyes didn't blink. Mine did. That's when I realized something terrifying. He believed what he was saying. He believed it completely. Ronnie grabbed my arm. "Vince, he's lying." Mercer smiled. "Is he?" Before I could answer, he slipped something from his coat, a thin envelope, and tossed it onto the floor. "For you," he said. "Consider it a gift." Then he stepped back and vanished into the shadows before I could reach him. I picked up the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. A morgue photo of a corpse. The corpse looked like me. Ronnie stared at the picture, her hands trembling. "That's not you," she whispered. "It can't be." The image showed a man lying cold on a steel table, jaw slack, eyes closed, hair slicked back. But the features, God help me, they were mine. Every detail. That's a fake, I said. But my voice didn't sound confident. Vince, Ronnie said, this morgue file is dated 12 years ago. I looked at her. She looked at me, and I felt something break inside my chest. Someone's manipulating records, she continued quickly. This is part of the frame job, a deeper layer, a psychological attack. But I couldn't stop staring at the picture. Me, dead, 12 years ago. This is impossible, I muttered. I was working cases. I was living my life. Were you? A voice said behind us. We spun. Mercer stood in the doorway. Alive, calm, smiling. You lived the life meant for me, he said. And now, I'm taking it back. I raised my gun, but he was faster. He stepped into the fog, disappearing like smoke sliding through cracks. Ronnie grabbed my face, forcing me to look at her. Vince, listen to me. That man is lying. You are real. You're alive. You have memories. Do I? I snapped. Or were they given to me? Stop it, she said firmly. You're Vincent Mallory, a detective, a stubborn, complicated man who drinks too much and trusts too little. You're not a ghost. Her voice pulled me back, a little, but doubt had already settled in like cold. I pocketed the morgue photo. We need answers, I said. And we'll get them, Ronnie replied. But not if you fall apart now. She was right. I needed proof, evidence, something that could not be faked. And there was only one place left in Haven City that held that kind of truth. The precinct archives. The one place I could never safely enter. The precinct used to feel like home. Now it felt like enemy territory. The stone steps, the flickering lamps, the crooked railing where rookies used to lean and smoke. I knew every inch of it. But that night, standing across the street, with my collar up and my hat pulled low, the building looked different. It looked like a mouth, and I was about to walk into its teeth. Ronnie stood beside me in the shadows of a doorway, hands buried in her coat pockets to hide the shaking. Her breath came in pale clouds. You sure about this? She asked. No, I said, but I'm out of choices. We watched the front doors for a moment. Cops came and went, some tired, some laughing, some angry. None of them knew the man they were hunting was watching from across the street. They've got your picture posted on the main board, Ronnie murmured. I saw it earlier. Red string. Notes. Whole thing looks like a shrine to your worst day. Could have picked a better photo, I muttered. She gave a faint smile, but it didn't hold. The morgue file, Vince. If that's real, they've been rewriting your life on paper. Here, inside that building. That's where the records are. The basement archives, I said. Morgue reports. Case files. Active, closed, and buried. And heavily guarded. Not at this hour, I said. Night shift's lazy. Half of them are drunk. And the other half? They don't look down unless something screams. She studied me. What's the plan? I go in through the back. Through the service entrance near the cells, I said. You create a headache at the front desk. Something that pulls eyes away from the hallway. Give me 15 minutes. 10, she said. If they recognize you, they'll lock the doors. Then I better move fast. She grabbed my sleeve. If anything goes wrong, it will, I said. But I'll still be there. She held my gaze for a long second, then nodded. Try not to die, she said. We've got deadlines. Then she crossed the street, walking straight toward the front doors, like she belonged there. I waited until she stepped inside. Then I slipped around the side of the building, keeping my head low. This wasn't the first time I'd broken into a building I knew too well, but it was the first time it had been my own. Veronica Vale didn't look like trouble. She looked like a reporter who'd worked too many late nights and burned through too many packs of cigarettes. That usually put people at ease, made them think she needed them more than they needed her. They never realized how sharp her teeth were until she bit down. I caught pieces of her voice through the side window as I crept along the wall. I'm just saying, Captain, if you don't give me a quote, someone else will. End quote. I don't answer to the press at this hour, Miss Vale. I'm not asking you to answer to the press. I'm asking you to answer to the people who are going to see your name in the paper next to the words, cover up. She was good. The door to the service entrance had an old deadbolt. I used to joke that a toddler with a paperclip could get through it. Tonight, I was the toddler. The paperclip was a piece of snapped metal I'd stolen from a trash bin. 2 clicks later, I slipped inside. The hallway beyond was dim, lit by weak bulbs that hummed like flies. The floor smelled like bleach and old sweat. This was the back hall that led to the holding cells, the showers, the evidence locker, and the stairwell to the archives. I moved down the corridor, keeping my steps slow, deliberate. Voices drifted from somewhere ahead, a couple of uniforms playing cards in an empty office, arguing about a boxing match on the radio. I turned left, easing past. Ronnie's voice floated faintly from the lobby now, heated and sharp. No. What I'm saying is, if you had control over your own detectives, you wouldn't have a cop on the run and the newspapers calling him a hired gun. She was pouring gasoline. I just hoped it burned slow. I reached the stairwell door, opened it just enough to slide through, and started down. The archives sat in the basement, a long room lined with shelves and cabinets, all smelling like dust and paper cuts. When I first joined the force, I'd hated this place. Too quiet, too still. Cases turned into files, and lives turned into lines of ink, all packed away in boxes, as if the dead could be contained. Now I needed this graveyard. A single bare bulb lit part of the room. The rest faded into shadow. In the corner, the night clerk hunched over a ledger, his head nodding like it might drop straight into the ink. I recognized him. Old Man Keene. He'd been pushing papers down here since before I knew how to spell homicide. I stayed in the dark until his chin hit his chest, and his breathing turned slow and heavy. He was out. I moved along the shelves, scanning labels. The morgue files were kept in the back, sorted by year. I needed one word. Mallory. I found the section for 1,929. Then 1,930. I ran my fingers along the folders, reading faded tags. There, Mallory, Vincent, 1,929. My heart kicked. Hands steady, eyes not. I slid the folder out. Inside were a few sheets clipped together. The top one was the standard morgue report: name, time of death, cause, officer of record. Name, Vincent Mallory. Time of death, October 4th, 1,929. Cause, gunshot wound to the chest. Officer of record, Captain Harold Rourke. Rourke. That name hit me like a punch. Rourke was my current captain, the man hunting me now. I flipped to the next sheet, the identification form. It listed the man as a patrolman in training, killed in the line of duty during a raid on a smuggling ring. Next to the name was a small, grainy photo. The same morgue photo Mercer had shown me. The dead man looked like me, but not exactly. You had to stare to see it: the angle of the jaw, the shape of the eyes. Close enough to be family, not close enough to be a twin. And then there was the final page. A handwritten note from Rourke, filed at the bottom. The ink had bled slightly, like it had been written in a hurry. Subject: Mallory, deceased. Replacement assignment to follow. Keep file restricted to command review only. Replacement assignment. I stared at the words until they blurred. Vince? Ronnie's voice whispered behind me. My hand flew to my gun before I realized it was her. What are you doing down here? I hissed. I shook them for a few minutes, she said. Threw Rourke off with talk about favoritism and bribes. You get what you need? Depends on what you call need. I handed her the file. She read in silence. Then she said quietly, This says the original Vincent Mallory died 12 years ago. Yeah. And Rourke arranged a replacement. Yeah. She looked up at me. Who were you before that, Vince? I opened my mouth, closed it. The truth was ugly. I hadn't thought about my life before the academy in a very long time. Partly because there wasn't much to think about. Partly because what little there was came wrapped in fog. I remember an alley, I said slowly, waking up with my head pounding. 2 cops standing over me. Rourke was one of them. He told me I'd been in a fight, that I'd been robbed and left for dead. He said if I wanted a way out, the department needed men with guts. I signed the papers a week later. No family? She asked. No one claimed me, I said. No one came looking. She swallowed. Vince, did you ever wonder why he picked you? I figured he saw a stray dog that could bite on command. Or he saw a man with no records, she said quietly. No past anyone could check. An empty page. It's salve. I felt cold. You think I'm the replacement? I said. I think Rourke knew Mallory died that night, she said. But the department needed Mallory alive. Maybe for a cover story. Maybe to hide what really happened in that raid. So he found you and put you in the dead man's shoes. I stared at the file. It made an ugly kind of sense. Too ugly. So what does that make me? I asked. Her voice was soft. It makes you real. You've been living this life for 12 years. Case by case. Day by day. That doesn't vanish because of some ink on paper. I've been living someone else's name, I muttered. Names don't solve cases. You did. I looked at her. Why would Mercer care? I asked. What's his angle? She flipped back to the first page. If he was in the same recruit class, maybe he thought he was supposed to be the replacement. Maybe he and Rourke had some deal. Maybe he felt cheated when you got the badge and he got thrown out. Then he spent 12 years watching, I said. Waiting. And now someone gave him a chance to take what he thinks is his, she said. The room suddenly felt smaller, but something still didn't fit. If this file proves Rourke set everything up, I said, why hasn't Mercer used it against him? Why frame me instead? Ronnie hesitated. Maybe he's working for Rourke, she said. Or maybe he wants both of you to burn. Before I could answer, footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Voices. Flashlights. We'd been down here too long. We barely had time to slip into the darkest corner between two shelves before the stairwell door swung open. Captain Rourke walked in. He was a big man, broad through the shoulders, with a square jaw and cold eyes. His hair had gone gray at the temples the last few years, but his back was as straight as a sergeant about to bark orders. 2 uniforms followed him. Keen, Rourke said. Wake up. The old clerk jerked awake, fumbling for his pen. Captain, I was just asleep on duty, Rourke said. Save the lies. I'm not here for a lecture. I'm here for a file. Keen nodded quickly. Of course, sir. Name? Mallory, Rourke said. Vincent Mallory. Morgue record 1929. I felt Ronnie's hand tighten around my arm. Keen blinked. But that file is restricted, sir. Not to me, Rourke snapped. Get it. Now. Keen shuffled toward the back shelves, steps uneven. He stopped near our aisle. Too close. I held my breath as he slid a folder from the row. It was the same one we'd just taken. Except it wasn't. The spine was there. The tag matched. But I'd moved the real file 2 shelves down after Ronnie finished reading. Old habit. Never leave what you need where they expect it. Keen brought the decoy folder to Rourke. Rourke flipped it open. His brow furrowed. Empty, he growled. Where are the documents? Keen stammered. I don't know, sir. They were there last week. You saying someone stole them? Rourke barked. The uniform stiffened. Keen shook his head, sweating. I don't know. Maybe they were misfiled. Shut up, Rourke said. He closed the folder slowly, fingers tight. This city is crawling with reporters and rats, he said. If this file leaks, we're all finished. Find it, or I'll find someone who can. End quote. He handed the empty folder back and stormed out, the uniforms following like shadows that didn't dare detach. The door shut. Keen sagged against the desk, breathing hard. Ronnie exhaled in my ear. He knows someone's pulling at the thread. Good, I said quietly. Means we're close. We waited until Keen went back to nodding off, then slipped up the opposite stairwell that led to the back alley. Once we were outside, Ronnie pulled the real file from her coat and held it up. This is it, she said. This file can destroy Rourke. Expose the lie. Clear your name. Maybe, I said. But a piece of paper won't stop Mercer from walking around with my face. She nodded. So we take them both down. How? She stared at the precinct, thinking, by making them turn on each other, she said. We ducked into a small diner 2 blocks away, the kind of place that stayed open all night and didn't ask questions about why your hands shook when you asked for coffee. The waitress gave us a tired nod and left us alone in a corner booth. Ronnie spread the file out on the table, shielding it with her arms in case anyone looked over. Rourke's panicking, she said. He needs this file hidden. He doesn't know you've already seen it. Mercer showed me the morgue photo, I said, but not the note about the replacement. Maybe he doesn't know what Rourke did either. Or he knows and he's saving it, she said. Either way, this is leverage, and leverage is how we survive. I sipped the coffee. It tasted like burnt mud, but at least it was hot. Mercer wants your life, she said. Rourke wants his secrets buried. We need to make them believe each one is betraying the other. Play them off, I said. Exactly. She pulled out her notebook and started scribbling. We leak just enough, she said. A whisper in the right ear. A hint that Mercer has the file. A hint that Rourke is cutting him loose. Make them paranoid. Force them into the open. And where do they meet when that happens? I asked. She looked up. Where would you meet someone if you didn't trust them, but still needed them? I thought about it. Somewhere public, but not too public, I said. Somewhere loud enough to hide raised voices, but quiet enough that you can see if someone's watching. Street corners are too exposed. Offices are too trapped. My mind wandered. Then it landed. The train yard, I said. She frowned. Why there? Rourke uses the freight yard for off-the-books meets, I said. It's noisy. Lots of blind spots. Easy exits. And if you need a body to disappear, the trains do the work, she finished. I nodded. Get word to Mercer, I said. Tell him Rourke wants a meeting at the yard. Then get word to Rourke that Mercer's threatening to expose the file unless they talk face to face. And what are we doing while they tear each other apart? She asked. I gave a thin smile, trying not to get shot. Getting a message to Mercer was tricky. Getting a message to Rourke was suicide. But Haven City had one thing going for it. Nothing stayed secret if you knew where to stand and how to listen. Ronnie used her contacts in the press. A photographer who took bribes from both cops and crooks. A clerk in records who liked to gossip. A bartender who worked 2 blocks from the precinct. Within a few hours, the rumor started to spread. Mercer's got something on the captain. Something big. He wants a deal. Wants to meet. At the same time, another whisper started. Rourke's bringing Mercer in tonight. Quietly. No cuffs. They're meeting at the freight yard, midnight, to bury the hatchet, or bury each other. You didn't need a radio to hear the news. The whole city hummed with it, like static before a storm. By 11:30, the fog had rolled in thick over the tracks. Ronnie and I watched from the edge of a rusted storage shed, the metal cold through our coats. The train yard stretched out ahead of us, lines of tracks, rows of freight cars, cranes reaching up into the night. Lanterns burned weakly along some of the paths, but most of the place was in shadow. The air smelled like steel and diesel and distant rain. You sure he'll show? Ronnie whispered. They both will, I said. Men like these don't run from threats. They crush them. We waited. Minutes dragged like hours. Then headlights cut through the fog. A black sedan rolled up near the center of the yard and stopped. 2 men climbed out. Rourke and one of his trusted lieutenants, Sergeant Mills. They scanned the area, hands near their holsters. He brought backup, Ronnie muttered. Of course he did. Another figure appeared from the opposite side of the yard, moving slow, shoulders relaxed, coat collar up. Mercer. He walked like he owned the ground. The moment he stepped into the glow of a lantern, it was like looking into a twisted mirror again. My face, my build, my walk. Rourke watched him approach. Mr. Mercer, he said. You've been busy. Mercer smiled faintly. Captain Rourke, you look older. Time does that, Rourke said. Especially when you're cleaning up other people's messes. Mercer's eyes flicked to the folder in Rourke's hand. Is that mine? He asked. That depends, Rourke said. You called this meeting. You said you had something sensitive. I do, Mercer said. Your little secret from 12 years ago. The dead recruit. The replacement. Rourke's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're playing with, he said. Oh, I think I do, Mercer replied. You picked a stray off the street, put him in my place, gave him my life, my badge, my future. You took everything I was supposed to have and handed it to a nobody. He was more useful, Rourke said, voice flat. I felt a twist in my stomach. Useful. That's all I'd ever been to him. Mercer laughed once. No humor in it. You used me, he said. Threw me out like trash. And then you act surprised when I come back for what I'm owed. Rourke lifted the folder. You think this proves anything? One missing file doesn't scare me. I've buried bigger problems than you. But you haven't buried him, Mercer said quietly. You let him walk around with my name, my face. He doesn't know, Rourke said. He doesn't need to. Doesn't matter, Mercer said. He's finished. I made sure of it. The city thinks he's a killer. The O'Sheas want him dead. Soon there won't be anything left of him except a headline. Ronnie's fingers dug into the rust of the shed beside us. Vince, she whispered. Listen to him. This is it. This is everything. Is due every point. I watched the two men under the lantern light, the captain who had given me a life built on lies, and the ghost who wanted to steal it back. That's not enough for me, Mercer went on. I want the file. I want proof. I want the record to show that I was the one meant to wear that badge. And then I want you to watch while I take everything he has. Rourke eyed him carefully. You're insane, he said. Mercer smiled. Maybe, he said. But I'm your insanity. You built me. I'd heard enough. This ends tonight, I said. Before Ronnie could stop me, I stepped out from behind the shed and walked toward the lanterns. My shadow stretched long across the tracks. Funny, I called out. I thought I built myself. All three men turned. Rourke's eyes widened. Mills reached for his gun. Mercer's smile deepened. Ah, he said softly. The man of the hour. I kept walking until I stood at the edge of the light, just far enough that the fog still clung to me. Ronnie hovered in the shadows behind me, close enough to move, far enough to stay unseen. Nice party, I said. Didn't know we were invited. Mallory, Rourke snapped. You're under arrest. For what? I asked. Being framed? Or being alive? You murdered Locke, he said. You've been interfering with O'Shea operations. You've gone rogue. You know damn well I didn't, I said. Your new golden boy here did the heavy lifting. I jerked my chin toward Mercer. Rourke looked from me to him. You've been impersonating a cop, he said slowly. Sabotaging my cases. Mercer shrugged. Not impersonating, auditioning. I held up my own copy of the file, pulled from my coat. Funny thing, Captain, I said. I've got a morgue report with my name on it, dated 12 years ago. Says I died in a raid, and a little note at the bottom about a replacement assignment. Rourke's jaw clenched. You don't know what that means. It means you found a nameless drunk in an alley, I said, and decided to polish him into a tool. Mercer's eyes glittered. He cheated us both, Vincent. Gave you a life that wasn't yours. Took mine away. I'm only here to balance the scales. You framed me for murder, I said. Balanced? Yes, he said simply. You think you're the original? I asked. Fine. Take the name. Take the badge. But you're not getting the life I built with it. You're not getting her. His eyes flicked toward the shadows behind me. He'd seen Ronnie. Her cover was gone now. He smirked. Ah, the reporter. The one who believes your story. Don't worry. I'll win her over. People always trust a detective who looks like a hero. Ronnie stepped into the light. You're not a hero, she said. You're a parasite. You slip into lives other people built and drain them dry. Maybe, Mercer said, but I'm honest about what I am. Your friend there, he's been living a lie longer than you've known him. I kept my gun low at my side, finger resting against the frame, not the trigger. One wrong twitch and this yard would turn into a graveyard. We can stand here all night hissing about whose name is on which corpse. I said. But the truth is simple. You killed Locke. You sabotaged O'Shea shipments. You planted evidence with my initials. You walked in and out of my life like it was a costume. That's on you. Mercer's smile finally faded. Locke deserved it, he said. He was skimming. Maybe he did, I said. But you didn't kill him for justice. You killed him for theater. So you could paint me as the villain. Everyone needs a villain, Mercer replied. You're good at it. Rourke finally snapped. Enough, he growled. Both of you shut up. This ends now. The file is coming with me. The two of you are going in the ground, one way or another. Mills drew his gun, pointing it at me. Drop the weapon, Mallory, he said. I raised my hands slightly, gun still hanging by my side. Ronnie tensed. Mercer watched calmly, eyes flickering between us, as if measuring each move. You shoot him, I said to Rourke, and you still have a problem. Mercer knows your secret. Mercer knows what you did 12 years ago. You think he's going to stay quiet after I'm gone? Rourke's eyes shifted to Mercer. We'll make a deal. Mercer laughed softly. Oh, Harold, you really don't know me at all. He slipped his own gun from his coat with a lazy, practiced motion and leveled it at Rourke. Mills swung his aim toward Mercer. For a heartbeat, we stood in a perfect, crooked circle. 4 guns, 4 lives, 0 trust. Captain, Mercer said, tonight you pick which ghost you want the city to remember. The one you buried 12 years ago, or the one standing in front of you. Drop your gun, Mercer, Rourke said. No, Mercer replied. I spent too long unarmed in this story. Ronnie's voice cut through the tension. I've already copied the file, she said. All eyes turned to her. She held up her notebook. I wrote down every word, she said. Rourke, your note about the replacement, the date, the location. If anything happens to either of these men, or to me, that story hits the front page. With names. She nodded toward me. And faces, both of them. Mercer's expression shifted, just a little. That small, strange calm broke at the edges. You'd ruin him too? He asked. Your detective? She shook her head. No, I'd tell the truth. That a captain used desperate men like spare parts. That one became a detective in a city that chews men up. That the other spent years in the dark, trying to claw back a life he never had. And which one do you think the city would believe? Mercer asked. She looked at me, then at him. I don't know, she said. That's what scares me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A lantern hanging on a hook above us, swaying slightly in the wind, its flame flickered, light wobbling across steel and fog. If enough lead flew, that lantern would fall. And if it broke, a lot of things here would burn. The yard was full of old oil stains. Half the freight cars probably carried something that would go up like a Christmas tree. We were one bullet away from an inferno. Mills, I said quietly, you don't want to die in a train yard for a captain who lies in ink. Walk away. Shut up, he snapped. I'm not. The shot came from somewhere behind him. Mills jerked. For a second, nobody understood what happened. Then blood bloomed on his shoulder. He dropped to one knee, gun falling from his hand. The sound rolled across the yard, one single crack, lost in the open air. Everyone looked in the direction it came from. Figures moved through the fog, 3 men in long coats, guns drawn. O'Shea's men, of course. Donnie O'Shea stepped into the light, hands in his pockets, like he was arriving late to a show he already knew the ending to. Well, well, he said. Whole family's here. Rourke spun on him. What the hell are you doing here, O'Shea? You thought I wouldn't hear about a meeting between my dead bookkeeper's killer, my favorite dirty cop, and the detective I was told to put in the ground? Donnie said. You insult me. He looked at me. Still alive, Mallory, he said. You're tougher than the rumors. Lucky, I said. He turned to Mercer. And you, he said, the ghost with the borrowed face. You've been busy wrecking my shipments. You owe me money. Mercer's eyes hardened. You were part of the deal, he said. You agreed to help put him in the frame. Donnie shrugged. Only as long as it paid. Now I'm thinking there's more profit in tidying things up myself. He waved a hand lazily. His men aimed at all of us. Rourke, Mercer, me, Ronnie. In the space of a breath, the whole game changed. It wasn't a triangle anymore. It was a crosshair. There's a moment in every mess where talking dies and the guns take over. Donnie smiled. Here's how this works, he said. I shoot all three of you, then burn the yard. The city thinks you turned on each other. The cops blame the mob. The mob blames the cops. I walk away clean. You shoot me, I said, and that file still exists. He glanced at Ronnie's notebook. Reporters burn like everyone else. Mercer shifted slightly, eyes searching the yard. Rourke tensed. I watched that lantern. It trembled on the hook. One shot, one spark. I made a choice. I moved first. I dove sideways, firing up toward the lantern. The bullet tore through the hook. The lantern fell. It smashed on the ground. Glass shattering. Flames spilled across a slick of oil. Fire bloomed. Shouts exploded around us. O'Shea's men opened fire. Rourke fired back. Mercer vanished into the smoke like he'd been waiting for it all along. Ronnie hit the ground behind a stack of crates. Notebook clutched to her chest. I rolled behind a freight wheel as bullets sparked off steel. The fire spread fast, crawling along the tracks like a hungry animal. Flames licked up the side of a freight car with a dry, eager hiss. Heat slammed into me. Someone screamed. Someone else stopped screaming. I saw Donnie fall back, clutching his leg. Rourke ducked behind the sedan, firing blindly toward the shadows. One of O'Shea's men crumpled in the dirt. Through the chaos, one thing cut through clear. Mercer, moving along the far side of the yard, slipping between flame and fog, heading straight for Ronnie. He wanted the file. He wanted her. He wanted to erase me completely. I sprinted after him, lungs burning, coat catching sparks. Ronnie! I yelled. She looked up just as Mercer reached her. He grabbed her wrist, yanking her to her feet. We're leaving, he said. You're coming with me. She jerked her arm. Let go. You have the copy, he said. You're the only insurance in this city. I need you alive. The detective, not so much. I came in from the side, tackling him. We hit the ground hard. His fist slammed into my jaw. Mine cracked against his ribs. For a second, it was like punching a mirror. Every move countered. Every angle matched. We rolled through dirt and ash. Fire at our backs. Ronnie scrambled away, coughing. Mercer's hand went for his gun. I slammed his wrist into the ground. The gun skidded out of reach. He drove his knee into my ribs. Pain exploded. He got on top of me, fingers closing around my throat. I told you, he hissed. This life was mine. I clawed at his hands, spots bursting in my vision. Then why? I rasped. Do you need a gun? His grip tightened. My lungs screamed. And then he jerked sideways, grunting. Ronnie stood over him, arm outstretched, holding a chunk of broken wood she'd ripped from a crate. She'd slammed it into his shoulder. Get off him, she snapped. Mercer swung at her, wild. She ducked. I used the opening and slammed my fist into his jaw. He toppled sideways, rolling down a slight slope toward the edge of the yard. I pushed myself up on shaking arms. Ronnie grabbed me. You okay? She coughed. Define okay, I rasped. We looked down the slope. Mercer lay near the edge of a low drop where the yard broke off into the river canal. The ground there was mud and rock and darkness. Water churned below, black and cold. Mercer staggered to his feet, swaying. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. He looked at me, eyes bright with something like respect and hate. This isn't over, he said. Yeah, I said. I figured. Sirens wailed in the distance now, more cops, more trouble. Fire roared behind us, lighting the yard in hellish orange. Rourke stumbled somewhere near the cars, shouting orders. O'Shea cursed through his teeth. Mercer took a step back toward the edge. And if I can't have your life, he said, I'll make sure you never feel safe in it again. He spread his arms slightly, like a man on the edge of a stage. Then the ground gave way. The bank crumbled under his heel. Mercer slipped. He dropped over the edge. I lunged forward, sliding on my knees, hand outstretched. For a split second, our fingers brushed. Then he was gone. A splash echoed up from the dark. The canal swallowed him. The water churned, bubbling, then smoothed over like nothing had happened. We stared at the black surface. Ronnie spoke first. Is he gone? I shook my head slowly. I don't know, I said. The sirens drew closer, red and blue glows cutting through the firelight. Voices shouted in the distance. If we stay, she said, they'll pin all of this on you again. Yeah, you have the file. You have the truth. We can blow this wide open. Maybe, I said. But right now they don't want the truth. They want someone to blame. Then we run, she said. I looked one last time at the canal. If Mercer survived that drop, he'd be out there somewhere, a ghost in my skin, with a grudge that wouldn't drown easy. I turned away. Let's go, I said. We slipped out through a gap in the yard fence as patrol cars screamed up the road. The heat from the fire chased us all the way to the street. We didn't stop moving until we were 3 blocks away, ducking into a narrow passage between 2 brick buildings. My chest hurt. My throat burned. My knuckles throbbed. Ronnie's hair was singed at the ends. Soot streaked her cheeks. She looked like she'd crawled out of a war. Nice night, she said weakly. Could have used less arson, I replied. She leaned back against the wall, catching her breath. Rourke, O'Shea, Mercer, they all walked into that yard thinking they could control the story. Now, none of them can. You think the department will charge Rourke? I asked. Not yet, she said. He'll spin it. He'll say he was trying to take you and Mercer in quietly. The fire will be blamed on crossfire and chaos. And Mercer? She shrugged. If they don't find a body, they'll call him missing. Or they'll say, you shot him, and he fell into the canal. I rubbed my jaw. Another ghost story for the city. She tapped her notebook. But we have this, she said. The file, the note, your past, Mercer's motives, all of it. We can tell the real story. I looked at her. You published that, I said. And you put a target on your back bigger than mine. She gave a tired smile. I live for targets. Makes it easier to aim. I shook my head. You're not funny. Liar, she said. We stood there for a long moment, listening to distant sirens and the faint crackle of fire. At least one thing's clear, she said. What's that? You're not the man who died in that morgue photo, she said. You're the man who tried to save a city that doesn't know what you've done for it. The man who just risked being burned alive to stop 3 devils from tearing Haven apart. I shrugged. That man sounds taller. She stepped closer. Whatever name Rourke gave you, whatever life he tried to script for you, you rewrote it, she said. You turned a lie into something real. That matters. Her words landed somewhere deep I didn't like to show. So what now? I asked. We go underground for a while, she said. Gather proof. Watch Rourke. Watch O'Shea. See who moves first, now that Mercer's gone. Or hiding. And Mercer? I asked. She exhaled. If he survived, he'll be back. People like him don't just disappear. They hide. They wait. And when he comes back, I said, he'll be smarter, angrier. She nodded. So will we, she said. Later that night, we holed up in another safe spot, an old room above a closed-down print shop. Ronnie sometimes used to crash when deadlines refused to let her go home. The room had a cracked mirror on one wall, warped from age. I caught my reflection in it as I washed soot from my hands in a chipped basin. For a second, I saw him. Not me. Him. Mercer. Same jaw. Same eyes. Same lines around the mouth. My chest tightened. You okay? Ronnie asked from the doorway. I stared at the mirror. You ever feel like you're just borrowed? I asked. Like everything you've got could vanish if someone snaps their fingers? She stepped into the room. All the time, she said. That's what this city does. It lends you a little hope, a little purpose, then tries to yank it back with interest. She came closer, standing beside me, facing the glass. Look, she said. Who do you see? A man with too many enemies, I said. She shook her head. I see the man who helped me expose the dockyard bribery ring, she said. The man who sat with a dying witness because no one else would. The man who didn't let me walk into a crime scene alone, even when he knew it would cost him sleep. And his guide. She nudged my arm. Mercer can study your habits, she said. He can mimic your walk, your voice, your look. But he can't fake what you've done. He can't inherit your scars the same way. I looked at the mirror again. The reflection hadn't changed. But something in me had. I don't know who I was before Rourke found me, I said quietly. But I know who I've been since. She nodded. That's the man I'm betting on. I turned from the glass. Tomorrow, I said, we start pulling on every loose thread. Rourke's raid in 29. O'Shea's deals. The West End disappearances. Mercer's old marks. Somewhere in all that, there's a truth we can use. And when Mercer comes back, she asked. I gave a tired smile. Then we make sure the city knows which ghost is real. We didn't sleep much. By morning, the papers screamed about a mysterious inferno at the train yard. Headlines mentioned multiple bodies, possible mob involvement, and a rogue detective believed to be at the heart of the chaos. My name was everywhere. So was the word manhunt. No mention of Rourke being at the yard. No mention of O'Shea's men. Just me, the convenient villain. Ronnie slammed the paper onto the table. Lies, she growled. Expected, I said. Rourke still controls what gets out of the precinct. For now. She jabbed a finger at the headline. We can counter this. We have enough to start a series. Anonymous sources. Leaked notes. We paint a picture of corruption without naming names yet. And when we name them, she looked at me. Then we don't sleep at all, she said. We were still talking strategy when a soft knock came at the door. We froze. No one was supposed to know we were here. I reached for my gun. Ronnie motioned for silence. We moved to either side of the door. I nodded. She opened it a crack. An envelope slipped through the gap and landed on the floor. By the time I yanked the door open, the hallway was empty. I stepped out, looked both ways. No footsteps, no doors closing, just the creak of the old building settling. I picked up the envelope. No address, no name, just one word written in neat, calm letters across the front. Later, my skin crawled. I opened it. Inside was a photograph. Not a morgue photo. A recent one, taken from a distance. It showed Ronnie and me walking out of the diner the night before. Our heads were close together, our faces serious. On the back, a message. Borrowed lives never last. You took mine. I took yours. Now let's see who holds on longer. VM. Ronnie read it over my shoulder. Her voice was barely a whisper. I thought he fell. Maybe he did, I said. But the river didn't keep him. We stood there in the doorway. The morning light creeping across the floor. The city waking up. Hungry. Somewhere out there, a man with my face was watching, waiting, planning his next move. I folded the photograph and slipped it into the file with the morgue records, the note, the truth. 2 versions of Vincent Mallory. One official, one stolen. Neither willing to disappear. Ronnie met my eyes. This isn't over, she said. No, I replied. It's just getting its second wind. She grabbed her notebook. Then we write it, she said. Every twist, every lie, every ghost that walks these streets pretending to be real. It sighed. I holstered my gun, checked the hall once more, and closed the door. The city outside hummed with noise, secrets, and questions. And somewhere in that noise, my own footsteps echoed. Mine, not his. For now, so here's the truth. At least the part I can say out loud without choking on it. The man the city calls Detective Vincent Mallory used to be a nameless stranger, pulled from an alley and given a dead man's name. The captain who did it, Harold Rourke, has been covering his tracks in ink for 12 years. The crime family that runs half the docks, the O'Sheas, got dragged into a frame job they thought would be easy money, and the ghost wearing my face, Elias Mercer, believes he was robbed of a life that was promised to him. He studied me, copied me, killed under my name, turned the city against me, tried to wipe me off the map in fire and blood. He failed, but he didn't vanish. Now I know I'm living on borrowed pages. Someone else's name, someone else's badge. But the cases I solved, the people I saved, the lines I crossed to do it, those are mine. The guilt is mine. The choices are mine. And that means this fight is mine too. Rourke still sits behind his desk, pretending the world obeys him. O'Shea still moves his pieces in the dark. Mercer still walks somewhere in Haven City, wearing my reflection like a second skin. They all think they can write the ending. They're wrong, because I've got a journalist who won't stop digging until her typewriter breaks. I've got a file that says, the dead don't always stay buried on paper. And I've got a city full of ghosts that don't know which Mallory to fear yet. The man with the badge, or the man in the river. In a place like Haven City, sometimes the only way to prove you exist is to fight the copy that says you don't. And I intend to fight. Watch the next episode to see how this war between two Vincent Mallorys finally explodes.